Many Christians are falling into hell every day without knowing the reason. There is one sin that almost everyone does not know about, and this sin can cause eternal consequences. In this video, I would like to share a shocking experience of a man who saw hell and received a direct message from Jesus about this sin. My name is Brian. My life has always been rooted in faith. I grew up in a devout family centered on God. Praying day and night is a habit that I still keep. I always thought of myself as a serious Christian. I was one of those who followed the rules, went to church every week, and tried to live a comforting life. But to be honest, I did not pay much attention to certain things. For example, I did not believe in the devil or hell. I could not understand how God of love could allow eternal pain. Hell was just a symbol to them. I thought it was just an image made to scare people who did not believe. And to be honest, I always thought that my life was enough to go to heaven. I never doubted it. Meanwhile, in the afternoon of December 2018, a few weeks before Christmas, I was walking in the city. I could feel the cold air, and the Christmas lights were shining on the streets of the city. I was in a big shopping mall, and I was going to buy the last gift for my nieces and nephews. I bought a construction set for my sister's new planner and the youngest of my family's nieces and nephews. I was tired but satisfied. I felt the joy that only Christmas could bring. After shopping, I headed to the underground parking lot. I was tired and had a lot of luggage, so I decided to take the elevator instead of going up the stairs. When I got on the elevator, I did not feel anything special. It was a modern model with a shiny metal panel and faint background music. There were two people riding with me. A middle-aged man was looking at his phone, and a young woman in a red scarf was there. I pressed the first floor button, and the elevator started to move. But soon I heard a strange sound. There was a squeaking sound and a brief shock, as if something was crossing the limit. I didn't care much. I always thought I had no fear of closed spaces. I thought the fear of a closed space was an exaggeration, and it was only a problem for other people. The panic was the same. I thought it was just an excuse to get people's attention, or that it was caused by excessive drug use. I never imagined I would experience it. The elevator suddenly stopped between the two floors. The lights were on, but the movement was gone. I pressed the emergency button, but there was no immediate response. The man next to me was nervous and tried to make a phone call, but there was no signal. The uncomfortable silence dominated the elevator, and the silence was broken by the sound of my thoughts starting to move. I told myself that this was nothing, but my heart began to beat faster and faster. Then something happened. The elevator seemed calm for a moment, but suddenly I felt like it was pressuring me. It wasn't literally narrowed, but I could feel it. It felt like a wall was approaching, and breathing became more and more difficult. I started to sweat. I couldn't believe it. I was sweating and my hands were shaking. My heart was beating so fast that it hurt. I leaned against the wall and tried not to be noticed by others. A woman in a red scarf looked at me with a worried look. "Are you okay?" she asked. I tried to smile, but I only had an awkward look on my face. "Yes, I'm fine," I sighed. But it wasn't okay at all. It felt like my body was betraying me. I couldn't breathe, my head was dizzy, and I felt like I was falling into a pit without a floor. I tried to think positively, but the panic was completely dominating me. I saw myself reflected on the shining panel. Pale face, big eyes, sweaty hair. I tried to pray, but I couldn't speak in my head. For the first time in my life, I was overwhelmed by the thought of losing control. Two people in the elevator were trying to help me, but I couldn't speak. I felt like my body was paralyzed. And then everything got dark. Since then, I haven't heard anything. There was only a deep black cloud that completely enveloped me. It felt like I was trapped in a state of no time and no space. And suddenly, a light appeared from afar. It wasn't an ordinary light. It was a warm light that seemed to be alive and alive. I was attracted to the light and didn't know how it was moving, but I was drawn to the light without realizing it. The closer I got, the more intense the light became, and a form began to appear in it. I couldn't tell the shape of the face, but I felt familiar with it. It was dangerous and reassuring. The fear I felt in the dark gradually turned into curiosity. Brian said in a deep and calm voice, "It's time to see what you've always denied." That voice echoed in me. It wasn't just in my ears. It was as if all the words were permeating deep into my soul. I suddenly felt peace, but at the same time, I felt more and more tension. It felt like the judge was approaching, like the truth that can no longer be ignored. You didn't believe in hell. That voice kept saying, I always thought it was a myth to frighten the believers. Now I'm going to show you what you didn't want to see. The scenery around me changed in an instant. The light disappeared, and there was an unimaginable fear left. There was a cloud in front of me. It rose from the dark ground where high flames split like a mountain. The air was full of smoke and ash, and the heat was so hot that I couldn't breathe. The sky was covered with black and red stripes, and the lightning struck the darkness. But what really made me tremble were the people I saw in the flames. The men and women who screamed in the flames of pain. Their screams were so desperate that my heart ached, and it sounded like their pain would never end. Some of them tried to reach out to the sky and find a way out, but their eyes had no hope. The rest of them were struggling in pain and being engulfed by incomprehensible pain. The most shocking thing was that some of them were people I knew. They were Christians, and they prayed with me and went to church every Sunday to practice their faith. Among the souls in pain were the faces I knew. Like me, they were people who believed that they had been saved. I saw the pastors, the nuns, and the people I had served in the Christian community for years. They were all engulfed in the flames, and they were still praying with their hands together, but there was no answer. Why are they here? I asked them in a trembling voice. They couldn't take their eyes off the scene like hell, and they said, because they were as engrossed in their pride as I was. They prayed, but they did not open their hearts. They thought they could be saved only by their faith, and they judged other people. They ignored the sin hidden in their hearts. They thought God's forgiveness was automatic, and they never thought about the price of their pride. Those words gave me a deep shock. I saw the Christians who believed that they would be saved only by God's love. They ignored the true meaning of God's love and justice. The images in front of me were so vivid and rough that I seemed to be overwhelmed. All the souls who suffered in the flames were the people who lived as Christians. They prayed, read the Bible, and attended worship services, but there was always something missing. That was what purified them. It is not enough to just pray and go to church. The image next to me said, many people here believe that they could be saved only by showing their faith in front of others. But faith is not a simple word or external action. It is the action of the heart every day. It is to live according to the love and justice I have taught. That voice was full of compassion, but it also had an indisputable power. It was like giving them an indisputable lesson. But how is this possible? These people were faithful. They were devoted Christians. I no longer fully understood what I was seeing, and I stammered. Why could they be here? I did not think that Christians could come to a place like this. Why are they here? I kept asking desperately, because they have overlooked the most important thing, true repentance and humility. God answered, pride made them blind. They did not truly confess their sins with their hearts. They did not give up their pride, which made them feel superior to others. That's right. They prayed, but they did not pray sincerely. They prayed to be seen, and they prayed to feel lonely. But my love did not give them a chance to change their souls. The waves of panic overwhelmed me. If these people, these Christians, go to hell, what can I do? I lived like them, and I was sure that my prayers and faith were enough to save me. I judged other people, and I ignored my own decisions, and I took it for granted that God would forgive me anyway. The screams of those who were cursed pierced my heart. I saw their faces, and I saw their faces wrinkled with pain, that this is not a place only for sinners. Many Christians came here, not because they did not pray, not because they did not believe, but because they did not truly abandon their pride in their hearts. They thought that their faith would automatically save them, but they did not do anything that would change their souls. That word burned within me. I felt as if everything I had always believed in was falling apart. I prayed. I lived a Christian life. But now I understand that I have always ignored something fundamental: humility. I have never truly understood what humility is before God. But then, God's voice gradually softened, and He came to me, breaking my despair. You still have hope, Brian. You must learn here. What many people do not realize before it is too late. I did not bring you here to purify you. I brought you here to give you a second chance. In an instant, the world I knew disappeared. I was in a place of peace, a place out of time and space. As if everything was finally in place, all the details had a perfect meaning. There was no problem, no pain, and there was no need to be burdened. All the disappointments, sorrows, and regrets I had been through disappeared in absolute peace. It was a harmonious world, and it was a place made for me. It was a place made for me. It was a place where all the details were carved with the holy stone. I could not clearly distinguish everything around me, but I knew that everything had a meaning. Then I saw him. Jesus was standing before me. His presence was shining, and it was full of love and understanding. There was no sin in his eyes, and there was only deep recognition and overwhelming sweetness. He looked at me and spoke in a voice full of grace. This journey was a lesson for you. Everything you have experienced, everything you are seeing now, is already recorded in the Bible. But as time passed, many people lost faith. Their faith became weak, and their indifference grew over the past 20 years. But everything I have revealed in the Bible is still the truth, and you are now witnessing it. His words pierced my heart. It was full of soft but deep truth. I did not feel purified. Although I knew that I had made many mistakes in my heart, his words shined the parts of me that I had ignored. My soul needed healing. I became small and humble, but I felt deeper love than ever before. And Jesus said again, "I have one last thing to show you." At that moment, images appeared before me as if they were reflected on the screen. They were moments of my life. They were scenes that I had almost forgotten. In one scene, I saw an old woman on the street. Her shopping bag was torn, and her groceries were scattered. I ignored her, and I did not help her because I was too focused on my work. In another scene, I was on a bus. A pregnant woman was standing next to me. I looked tired, but I ignored her inconvenience and passed by. Each scene unfolded. Jesus showed me the moments when I chose not to care about love. Each image pierced my heart. I saw my selfishness, pride, and the love I often preached not being able to practice. I felt a deep sense of guilt, small and weak. Jesus calmly explained, "These moments are not just misdeeds. These are opportunities for me to approach you. I send a signal and create opportunities for you to grow in love." Faith is not just going to church every Sunday or praying habitually. Faith is bigger. It is to live with love for others. When you do good, your soul becomes strong. But when you ignore other people's suffering, it becomes dark. I see people's hearts. I see what they truly move by. Then Jesus spoke to me with infinite gentleness. "I know you have a big heart, Brian. So I ask you to convey this message to other people. I hope no one forgets what I saw and heard. Hell is not just a metaphor. Evil actually exists, but you were created freely. You have the power to choose the line and avoid it. Love leads your soul to eternal light. This is what I say to you. If you choose good, you will find eternal peace." His words are the true healing of my soul. I felt the weight of my mistakes, but for the first time, I understood the true meaning of faith. Faith is not a duty or request, but a journey of love. It was a journey to another person and God. I decided to start the journey and share it with others. Then everything disappeared. I don't know what happened to me from the elevator to the hospital. It was like a blackout, but I knew what happened to my soul. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in the hospital bed. The sound of the machine monitoring my heart and breathing filled the room. My hands were shaking, my body was tired, and all my energy was gone. I was alive. But at that moment, I felt different. There was no one next to me. There was a woman next to me. Her eyes were full of tears. Her face was full of pain and relief. She held my hand and said, "Doctors saved me." But I knew something bigger was happening deep inside me. God gave me a second chance. I wasn't just getting my body back. Something deep inside me changed. I was always proud. I thought I was right. I believed my superficial faith would protect me. But what I saw and heard shook me. I knew I was close to hell. It wasn't the metaphorical hell we often imagine. It was a realistic and terrible reality. And perhaps more importantly, I learned what I had always ignored. The panic attacks actually exist. It's not an exaggeration or a weakness. When I experienced it, I felt like the world was falling apart. I felt like I lost everything, even breathing. Now I understand how important it is to respect the people who are experiencing it. No one should be judged for such a destructive and unpredictable pain. When I was lying in bed, I felt weak, but alive. I felt deep gratitude and responsibility. I knew my soul could no longer be the same as before. For years, with the pride of being able to avoid habits, empty gestures, and judgment, I have lived with a comfortable faith. Now I realize that simply calling myself a Christian was not enough. Mechanical prayer or Sunday church visits were not enough. I had to change. Every prayer had to be a true connection. And every day, I had to live modestly and face my sins without being justified or ignored. I learned that faith is not confidence, but a journey. It is a conscious choice that requires courage, dedication, and above all, love for other people. Today I live with a different perception. I know I can never be perfect, but salvation is not without flaws. And I know I can make mistakes, but I know I can make mistakes, and I know I can make mistakes. It fills me with gratitude. Please leave a comment on where you hear it. If the whole world finds out that you are here, I feel like I'm a member of a community united by faith and hope. If this testimony has touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself, but share it with friends, family, and people who can be inspired. By sharing this message, you can become a messenger of Jesus' love and become a tool of light and hope that the world needs so much. Every little thing is important, and together we can spread faith and compassion anywhere. May God bless you and always be with you.